Hello and welcome to How to Win the Lottery Season 3 Internet Module Shitstorm. Cursing already. Explicit content warning. Sorry, Tipper Gore? Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, Tipper Gore.
Shitstorm.
I find myself saying sorry, apologizing to Tipper Gore pretty regularly.
So I read Tipper Gore came up in the Chuck Klosterman book, The 90s, because they talked about,
Mercy.
But also I just remember from an Eminem song where he goes...
Do the rap.
F you, Dick Cheney. F you, Tipper Gore. It's like, you're still mad about that? Okay. I mean, I guess that's like, she came for him and his people, but whatever.
Yeah. Also, that was a lot closer to the, we're 20 years further away from that now than we were then. But remember when she and Al Gore made out on stage?
No.
Oh, man. You don't remember that?
What, at the VMAs or something?
No. It was like, maybe it was when he accepted the nomination for president.
Oh.
And it was like a lot of the criticism about Al Gore had been that he was like boring and sort of like cold and didn't have like a lot going on emotionally with him, but that he was like very robotic and just like stayed on message with regard to climate and blah blah blah. And so like they like sort of ran toward each other on stage, like in a real like MTV Video Music Award Kiss of the Year thing, and he just like jammed his tongue in her throat, and a nation like
vomited,
recoiled. All like everyone was just like, "Oh God, no!" We also don't want to see that, Al.
So this is like 98, 99, right before like when he secured the 2000 nomination, I guess.
Yeah, probably 99. Yeah,
because when you said they kissed on stage, and like, where else would you kiss on stage other than like when Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling won for The Notebook, and like they kissed on, they're like, "Oh my God!" But
yeah, well,
because nobody else kisses on stage unless you're at the VMAs, and I was like, why would Al Gore be? Or why would Tipper Gore be at the VMAs?
Yeah,
enemy of the music industry
to do kisses. She's a kisser Gore. That's what we call her.
Shitstorm by Fernando Sdrigotti.
I think they're divorced though. I think he cheated on her.
I can't Google.
Yeah, you're not allowed to Google. Get out of here.
Fingers reached about 6
I'm pretty sure Al Gore was unfaithful to Tipper, and they've since split.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know if I call it that. Anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Well, no, this is going to come out in September.
I have no idea what the timeline is. I was just guessing at when these episodes come out.
I was thinking that, like, at some point we're going to record an episode in, like, late September, October, that's going to come out in January and be like, a Happy New Year, which I think last year when we did, like, New Year's resolutions, we recorded it in, like, December, so it wasn't wild, but, like, this year, because we're doing a bunch of short books and I'm moving things around,
How are your resolutions going, by the way? Did you kill that man yet?
No, I had 3. It was be more present, which I don't think I'm doing.
Also, that's lame and
I think you applauded me at the time.
Well, I was
read more. I am reading more.
Yeah,
and I think eating healthier is a swing and a miss.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah,
you're not eating healthier, but you're exercising every single day.
Still, yeah.
I have not completed my. You
haven't run a mile yet?
My resolution, not in one go.
Okay.
Or at least I didn't time myself when doing it. I've been to the gym many times.
I feel like what you need to do is like realize that you're really late for something and you have to get somewhere in like 9 minutes. That's exactly a mile away. And see if you do it.
God, I don't think that I could, but we can, certainly I'll try.
We'll do like a wife swap where I kidnap you and be like, your haircut is in 9 minutes and it's a mile away. And
did you say haircut because I have hair and you're a shaved head guy?
I was gonna say because I was gonna say like your actual profession, which I know we're sort of steering away from. So I didn't want to give any clues to like where I would be dropping you off. So I was just
I'm in the CIA.
I was like looking around and just like haircut.
I thought you were like, I got to get that mop of hair that's on his head.
I also think it's funny that like a haircut is like the lowest stakes thing imaginable. That if you were late for it, if you had to reschedule it, that's fine.
I cut my hair once a year.
That's it?
That's it.
That's what Dylan does, too.
Roughly once a year.
Or Dylan used to. I guess now that Dylan's probably cuts his hair more.
I shave my head once a year and then just let it grow out.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll probably change that up, too. Now that
you're in the CIA.
Now that I'm in the CIA, oppressing countries that... Anyway, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
I think this is going to come out in September. Who knows? We'll figure it out. But Shitstorm by Fernando Sdrigotti, Next week, we will be talking to the author himself, which is very exciting. But this is a book, this is probably our shortest book that we might ever do, because it's a novella. It's in a novella series of some kind, but it's 57 pages long if you read it on Kindle, which is real short.
Right. It kept reminding me of that Bruce Springsteen song, 57 Channels and Nothing On.
Do you know that there's a song like...
We're really off message today.
I know, but it's like two lines about 44 women or something. Do you know that song?
Nope.
Can't look it up.
But I will tell you this. You know that Ernest Hemingway short story, the shortest story ever written, and it's
Baby Shoes Never Worn.
Yeah, Baby Shoes for Sale Never Worn. I wrote a 6-word short story last night. Autobiographical, I think equally as sad.
Do you want to say it? Or
Yeah.
you just... Okay, go ahead.
Credit card declined while buying candy.
It's pretty good.
Autobiography, straight from the Wawa.
There was a contest. I don't know if it was a contest or just like a joke, but it was just like... There was a contest to see if you could incorporate religion, sex, violence, and mystery in a short story, and the shortest story to do all 4 would win. And the answer, I wish I had it memorized at one point, but it was like, my God, said the Queen, I'm pregnant, who did it? Or something like, it's something like that, where it's just like, oh, that covers all 4 things in 10 words. Like, people probably writing like, 100 words, like, I got it. It's like,
Yeah.
not even close.
Yeah, that story sucks, though.
It's not good. It's not a story, it's like a sentence.
Mm-hmm. Mine was good, though.
I mean, good is a relative term. It's compelling.
Don't push back on this.
Sorry.
With me. So, Shitstorm by Fernando.
Had you read this before or no?
No, I didn't read it until
this morning.
So right now it's like 10:30 a.m., something like that. And I didn't read it until about midnight last night.
Oh, so you're staying past your bedtime?
And I read it in one sitting.
Yeah, because it's very short. It's doable,
and it's also for the first 2/3 of it, there's something really breathless about it, where it's like, it's very much like one sentence to the next. You're like, because it mimics the news cycle, and the ways in which that news cycle is perpetually moving forward and leaving things behind. So in that way, it also mimics certain rants that I've had, or that people that I've listened to have had, where it's just like, you're barreling through these topics incredibly quickly, because our attention, whether for better or for worse, seems to be deficited these days.
Well, and I think if the thought that I kept having while reading this was that this must have been very cathartic in a way to write, because I feel like it's kind of, we'll talk to him about it, but like it feels like it's kind of like I don't know what to do with all this information. Like, there was a certain point in reading this, because it's like a very, very slightly alternate reality, where like it's our reality but like renamed.
It's recognizably our reality, but then different. It starts to as it goes further and further on, it gets further and further away from our reality. But where it starts is with a dentist from Minneapolis killing a protected lion in Zimbabwe, which mirrors a real life story of a very similar thing happened, where a beloved lion, Cecil the lion,
I think so.
I believe was the lion's name, was killed by a dentist. I don't know if he was from
Minneapolis.
He was from Minneapolis. Yeah. And celebrities and the world over were really, really angry, and they used this guy as a symbol of
white privilege.
White privilege, but also, like, when we think of hunting, hunting exists as a sort of signifier for us, for a certain kind of person that is sort of recreationally violent, and we project all these characteristics onto that person. Whether those things are true or not remains to be seen, or probably should be judged on a case-by-case basis, just like everything else. I mean, I personally think hunting is kind of whack. At the same time, I eat meat. I don't know. Like, I'm caught. A lot of what this book is doing is it's investigating the various hypocrisies that engage the cycle of anger that approaches these things.
Right. But also in a way where it's like, we can't be angry about anything for too long, because seemingly almost immediately there's another thing that's like even more aggravating or anger-inducing or whatever, or it's like it's the titular shitstorm. Like this is like the biggest story in the world, and all of a sudden there's a bigger story somehow.
Yeah, and also the anger is muddied and unclear because it seems to be entirely a function of confirmation bias and selective reading, right? This movement toward purposefully echo chambering our own lives.
So you're saying that like there's nothing in here that's outrageous to the right, that like the left did, or like I can't believe they did this or whatever. It's all it's like a very, is that what you're saying?
No.
Or you're saying the opposite, or not?
No, both. I mean, there are things that the left does in the text that are outrageous as well. I think when you read the book, you can tell that, or I think I can tell that sdrigotti, or the narrator, the sort of like distant narrator in the text, is like a left-leaning person,
yes.
right? He's more critical of the right wing
yes.
than he is of the left wing. But there is like an inherent criticism of the left in here, because it's like there is like a degree of performative anger. He has these two examples of journalists. One's name is O'Neill, who exists to represent the right wing, and one's name is James, who exists to represent the left wing. And neither of them quite get anything right. It's always like
by choice, kind of.
They're choosing
yes.
to get things wrong by excluding a certain aspect of.
It's like framing op-eds around.
Yeah. And they're also both like to some degree, and depending on your own political bias. My political bias is a leftist bias.
Wait, what? Just kidding. Sorry, go ahead.
Very funny. Very funny, Joey. You're a real Jay Leno. Depending on your political bias, you're going to find one of those more right than the other. But hopefully, right. with the way that sdrigotti has presented it, you recognize in James someone that is also kind of taking advantage of people's confirmation bias and using it not necessarily even to forward a humanitarian or ideology, but to further his own fame and to like this like sort of clique-driven whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There was a point in this novel, because like I think you had mentioned like the first 2/3 is kind of breathless, and then the last third kind of jumps ahead like 15-ish years,
and
maybe?
radically slows down the book
to basically be like one night almost.
Yeah.
But there was a point in the narrative where it's going from event to event to event, and I'm like, this all seems familiar. And then I reached to a point where I'm like, I can't tell if this all happened and I just don't remember because there's too much, or if it's just like an extrapolation. Like, not that it matters either way, but I thought it was interesting that like the way that he's pivoting from shitstorm to shitstorm and being like, and then this happened, then like there's, you know, stuff with the Stormy Daniels kind of thing, or like, but not Stormy Daniels, but like similar enough. But it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't know if these are just news stories that I missed, or I'm not seeing the parallel. Not that it matters, but I'm just like, this all could have happened. I just didn't know it because like the news cycle is so.
Well, I think he's also
wild.
he's nestling events that are representative of larger things within real events. Like he talks about, there's a bombing, right? And a bunch of people in England die, and within that, like, you know, initially Muslims are blamed for it, which is inflames the right wing, and the right wing says like, this is, you know, part of why we want to do Brexit. We want to like limit the amount of immigrants that come into our country. White genocide, blah blah blah. They're destroying our culture, etc. It's dangerous to be on the streets with these people. And then the left wing says, you know, don't retaliate against Muslims. This is not who they are. You know, you're taking the actions of one man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, and so like, I think that event in particular is fake, but it's nestled among things like Charlie Hebdo and all of these other instances that are very much real. And then it uses this as a launch pad to like switch back and forth, because after initial thoughts that it was a Muslim group, a group called the Breivik something or other, which is named after Anders Breivik, who is a white supremacist who murdered a bunch of people with a gun. Like a lot of people. I forget, like something like 45 people or something.
What was that?
Maybe the biggest mass shooting in the history of the world.
Okay.
I think that's who it is. Are you Googling it right now?
No.
Are you slyly Googling?
No.
I'm on Google police duty right now.
I refuse to Google anymore.
Good. Because I yelled at you. And then it switches back again, right? Because supposedly ISIS then claims the thing. So it's also, and then nobody on TV knows how to react because they've all already reacted. And once they've already reacted and then a new information comes, they're all wrong-footed by this reaction.
Yeah, I think there's something, and like it doesn't spend a lot of time on it, but there's something about the like step removed analyzing TV journalists, which I think, especially now the 24-hour news cycle, are like comically wrong because they just have to fill time. Like
comically wrong all the time.
Right.
Like if you take anyone, even people that you like, rewind it 6 months and look at one news program and they'll just be like, oh my God, they're wrong about everything.
Right. And I think that there's something like, it's not necessarily a new insight. I'm not saying this as a criticism, but like everybody knows those people are wrong. But I feel like the way that he just like takes a step back and doesn't make a big deal of it, but just like, look at these idiots. Basically, just I think that was pretty funny to me. That it was just like, well, they said, there was like the bunch of black kids like bully a white kid. And there's like talking about like whether or not reverse racism is a thing. It's just like both sides sound like idiots. Like when it's like abstractly discussed like that. Or
that's another instance that was very much like taken from the headlines, like a real. I remember when that happened, and it was. I
don't remember the follow up because like in the text, there's a picture of the kid doing a Nazi salute to a flag, which I'm like sounds familiar, but also might have been something. In here in the text, they talk about how there's this whole debate about whether
I thought there was media included, and I got a different version.
No. They talk about a picture that like his mom took a picture of him or whatever, giving a Nazi salute to the flag or something like that. And I'm like, I remember something like we felt bad for this kid, or there was a discussion, and then all of a sudden, like, oh no, the kid was canceled. They're just like, what?
Right? Yeah, it's the milkshake duck thing, right? You know about milkshake duck?
I think we might have even talked about it on here before. Okay. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's a tweet. It's like milkshake. Everyone loves adorable milkshake duck, the duck who drinks milkshakes.
Oh, right.
And
yes.
The next thing is like, we regret to inform you that the milkshake duck is a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Which happens over and over again with the internet has a new darling, and then all of a sudden it's like, we've dug up tweets where this internet darling has said that they don't think that women should own property or something like that.
Right.
Josh Hader style.
Is there anything else you want to say about the first 2/3, or should we jump forward to the fictionalized?
Well, it's it's presenting this like I don't know whether it be Michael Parenti or Adam Curtis or even Baudrillard. There's like this idea of a curated media that exists. We can't experience these events firsthand because we're not there, so all we have is the media that's curated by corporations and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they're presenting us with very specific ideas and ideology, and they present them in a cinematic way so that they look like entertainment, and that like brings us to a certain point where if the news looks like entertainment and the entertainment looks like news, because we now have like entertainment that is specifically about terrorist attacks and things like that constantly, and there's like this merging of medias which make our fundamental ability to discern fact from fiction and what real violence is versus fake violence.
And is that all just to sell ads? Sort of, or is there something more more sinister? But
I mean, ads, clicks to drive like content traffic. You honestly would know this stuff better than I do because it's part of your day job, kind of.
It's not good. No matter what it is, it's not good. I'm looking through my highlights of the first 2/3. So now the prey is the dentist. I like their little lines like. I also think it's interesting, and this is not necessarily interesting in any way other than I'm framing a thing as interesting that's not interesting, only interesting insofar as I don't think we've read another story or another novel this season that was basically centered in the UK, and I feel like there are kind of
interesting,
there are kind of references and like styles and like both like in the way that he writes like with S's instead of Z's and whatever, but like the actual physical style of it, but also
more casual use of the word cunt. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that word, although that is a really funny section in the book. I think that there is like I felt a little bit removed from the references. I feel like there's a lot of like sort of not like the British rags. Like I feel like the op-ed, like the right-wing guy was probably modeled after a guy, like a real guy in the UK that I just don't know. Not that it matters, but I felt like I was,
no, for sure. But you can, I mean, those are, masks that you can put on American journalists too. That like we have those guys, whether they be like Ross Douthat or Sean King or whoever. We have our share of the guys that are dishonestly presenting news from every single possible angle.
Correct. There is a line that I really liked. No further details, and somehow a new shitstorm will ensue. Another shitstorm will be born, another shitstorm in which we end up trapped for days. Another shitstorm in which we'll die in proportion to the worlds we excrete into the world.
Yeah.
Another shitstorm, and I can't begin to. And here I fixed your headline and thread and a lot of clapping between words and uppercase. There's always a lot of clapping.
Well, it returns. I mean, this is similar aesthetically to No One Is Talking About This, right? Where it's used,
which we might not have covered yet, but will come out.
Okay, the
Merry Christmas.
Patricia Lockwood novel, Nobody Is Talking About This, where it mimics the rhythms and various like syntactical choices made by the internet to that ends up being repeated ad nauseum until they're sort of burned into our brains in a way that is fairly gross.
Sure. Yeah. About 2/3 of the way through, we flash forward so there's like an alternate reality where Trump gets reelected. Which I guess this was probably written in 18 or 19. I think I think it was written before the election. I think it came out before the election.
Before he really won the election, but the left stole it from him. You mean?
Yep. When the insurrection was successful.
Yeah.
And they fixed democracy. And he gets reelected, and then we jump forward 10 or 15 years. We don't really dwell on the second term too much, but then we go to his funeral and how that becomes like the biggest news cycle of all cycles, or the biggest news story of all cycles, or whatever. And then we focus specifically back on the dentist from the beginning, who has since been long forgotten because it was X number of shitstorms ago.
Yeah, countless shitstorms.
And he's on his next younger, hotter, bigger boobed wife.
Yeah.
And who, was his employee who stood by him and blah, blah, blah. And he still hasn't really learned from his lessons, just learned don't take selfies with lions.
And is sort of living in even though the world has forgotten, he's living in a sort of perpetual anxiety that the world remembers, right? Which reminds me of this, the John Ronson book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed, right? John Ronson is a British journalist who...
Okay. Is that a nonfiction book or a fiction book?
Nonfiction book. He's written a bunch of nonfiction books, some of which you may know, like The Men Who Stare at Goats, which was made into a movie with George Clooney.
Yeah.
It's just a book about public shaming. And one of the things is this girl, Lindsay Stone, who had a photo of herself giving the middle finger and pretending like she was shouting at Arlington Cemetery next to a sign that says, please be silent and show respect,
right,
to blah, blah, blah. And her life was ruined because of that photo. She got fired from her job, taking care of, I think maybe autistic children or something like that. And she was, she had to hire a PR firm to help like rehabilitate her online image. Like they were like, okay, make a blog, make this, make that,
sure,
so that you can knock your Google mentions down a couple pages, et cetera, et cetera. But she lives in perpetual fear now of that coming up again and again and again and again. Like when she's looking for a new job, she thinks that her employer will look it up and just be like, we can't hire you because you did this thing. There
was, in that exact way, I think, a very sort of nebulous, vague tension over the final 20 pages of this thing where I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable, and like I don't think anything's going to happen, but like it could.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly that point that this guy thinks that at any point someone back in, I don't know, is he back in Zimbabwe or is
he's in Zimbabwe? Yeah.
That someone's going to recognize him as like the guy, but also like at the same time they probably don't give a shit. Like
15 years later, yeah, it's fine.
It's different people. It didn't impact it. It really only impacted him and like.
And even that, only briefly.
Right.
He came back from his dentist thing. Most of his clients were totally like,
I remember like people boycotting him, like the Yelp reviews that they talk about, but I'm sure other people were like, that's the only dentist I'm ever going to go to now. Like people are just like,
yeah, because that's the way. Like even if you're quote unquote canceled for political reasons, there is a undisclosed, maybe unknown number of people who will rally to your support and take care of you specifically because they believe that the other side.
You're standing for your values.
Yeah. And you can see this in people like, Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony, right? He said a bunch of incredibly racist things loudly, and he has I'm sure he's not making as much money as he did with his enormous Sirius deal, but he is still making Bill O'Reilly too. Bill O'Reilly has a popular podcast that gets, tons of...
Yeah. Not as popular as ours, but...
No, he probably has less than 31,000 listeners.
There's also
which is, by the way, how many listeners we have? 31,000.
There was that bake shop in Colorado who or maybe not Colorado, but somewhere out there that wouldn't do the gay. I don't remember if it was a gay wedding or a gay anniversary, whatever it was. But they're just we don't believe that we're not going to do this, and then their sales went up because so many people were just this is my bake shop now.
Yeah, or what's his name? Morgan Waller, the country star who used a racial slur and got dropped from his record label, I think, and then his sales skyrocketed. Sold more records than ever before because people were like, I want to support this racist.
Yeah. Is he the same guy who was supposed to be on SNL and got COVID and then got dropped and then still came back to SNL 3 or 4 weeks later?
I think so, yeah.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, he's not I don't think Lauren should be our political North Star or moral North Star.
Lauren, I think, even said something recently when I retire, the show might end or something. I'm just all right, man, what?
Who cares? Shut up, Lauren.
And by the time, actually, this is going to come out this month. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Anyway, we flash forward, and there's a real sense of unease that this guy thinks that, something literally around the corner, he doesn't know what's going to happen to him. But, he has this dream where, the guns don't shoot and things go wrong, and it's just this sort of I don't want to say you feel bad for him, but you realize that this guy's been dealing with this sense of looking over his shoulder since this happened, even though we just said no one cares.
I had a tough time connecting the last third of the book with the previous. What do you think is going? What do you think is behind the decision to pivot back to that guy? Is it just to show that these shitstorms move on and that life continues and that?
I don't know. That's why after I finished this, I texted you. I said I don't know what to make of it because I understand what this book is doing, and like I said at the beginning, I think it's very cathartic. I personally don't need to relive the Twitter news cycle in writing, you know what I mean? I'm just once it's gone, I don't want to think about the dentist again.
Yeah.
I think that's the upside to a certain extent of the shitstorm. It's just you don't think it's on to the next thing or whatever. Also, if you're not really online, I think what's interesting about this book, because we've covered a couple other books this season that have either episodes have come out or going to come out about basically life on Twitter in the Trump era.
Yeah.
And that's this, but it's also the news cycle. This is kind of a broader, more global look at it. But I do think that
But the news cycle is trying to replicate the internet.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
So it's the same thing, really.
But I think that there's something value, it makes me jealous of someone who's not on Twitter and not watching the news where there's so many people who probably have never heard of this dentist.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And there's something to be envied about that, I think. So I don't know that I enjoyed reading it. I think it's well written, and I liked some of the writing, and I liked what I liked it overall. But I just I don't want to relive it in a way. And I think to your question about what the end is, I think it's just further exploring a shitstorm.
Well, it also moves the shitstorm from being metaphorical to literal, right?
Yeah.
Because he shits and pisses himself, and he's like, "This is quite nice, actually.
Oh, I get it now.
I could do this forever, soaking in my own waste." Which I think also brings us to something that has been a weird subplot for this entire module, which is a focus on feces in a weird, in a strange. A lot of these books have shit as a major function either of plot or symbolism. I know the Levin book is not within the module.
Well, yeah, but Mount Chicago's still the novelist,
which we haven't released yet, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
we did it 6 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's coming out. This one. Are there others? Probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's still 3 out of 11 or something so far. It's this is crazy.
Yeah, and I think they all sort of return to the same Freudian ideal of control, right? This idea that a shitstorm is something that wildly spins out of control, right? It's this infantilization where you're no longer in control of your facilities, and in this case, it's metaphorical, where the shit that's happening is everything that you can't control around you that's sort of taking over your life. But then afterwards, you return to that like post-infantile traumatic state where it tries to force you into a version of control. In this case, that version of control is returning to the like hyper masculine Hemingway-esque murder of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, he's trying to kill something that is essentially helpless, right? Like a giraffe.
A giraffe, yeah.
Giraffes are not. I mean, if you ever seen video of giraffes fighting each other, it's pretty wild.
Slap necks against each other.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But like, you don't have to worry about. I don't think you have to worry about
No.
a giraffe hurting you if you're out in the wild. And he is looking to kill a giraffe. And then when he's hunting the giraffe, he is killed by a lion. Right.
He's hunting the giraffe, and he's like thinking about like how he wants to kill. He's like, I've learned my lesson. I need to do like one bullet right above the heart. It's going to kill it instantly. I'm going to have the trophy, blah, blah, blah. Or I might just shoot it in the neck. And wouldn't that be cool to have like, it's just like this like grotesque, like obsession with like the hunter thing, right? It's just like the thing that makes this thing beautiful. I'm going to destroy that in that specific way. But then as he's like waiting to take down the giraffe, he hears something rustling behind him. He falls face first, still holding the compass, his eyes open, seeing nothing but grass all around. He's stunned and has been taken by surprise, but he's not too surprised to figure out what's going on. That's it. Just as those words cross his mind, he feels his sphincters relax, piss and shit leaving his body, warm, messing his arse, very British, and his legs. It feels like it'll never end, the pissing and shitting. He doesn't want it to end. He would like to piss and shit himself forever, stretch this moment for an eternity, but that won't happen. Of course it won't. And no life, no film of his best moments crosses his mind. None of that nonsense. No memories of his wives, his children, his childhood, his first love, his trophies, the woman at the airport. Nothing crosses his mind but the thought that he's dying and the thought that he's pissing and shitting himself. And here he understands.
So the shit also, like, he the only thing he can think of is the shit and the piss, which is a metaphor for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? We're all just caught up in the shit and piss, and we don't want it to end. It's all we want. We want to just keep like shitting and pissing ourselves forever, being caught in this perpetual storm of what's next. What can I feel angry about? What can I feel superior to? Mm-hmm. What can I weaponize against my fellow human being?
And I think there's also the idea that like if he stops pissing and shitting, that means he will have died. And like instead of his life, like I think that's what I just read, but like instead of his life flashing before his eyes, it's just like this very basic, literal basic bodily function. And if that no longer happens, he's probably not alive anymore.
Yeah, we no longer have life. We only have the mask of death that is poop.
Very well said.
I don't think it means anything what I just said, but yeah.
It sounds nice.
It does.
Especially because the word poop is in there.
Yeah, poop. What if this book were called Poop Storm instead of Shitstorm?
I would like it even more. So this week that we're recording in, the week before Labor Day, putting a time and date on it, is the slowest day of tech news all year because like the entire industry is on vacation because like this is the last vacation. Like people they're like no one's making news, no one's reporting news. There's nothing going on. So one of the stories I put in our newsletter yesterday was a thing I saw on BuzzFeed News that was like, when your kid yells poop at the Alexa, these artists make money. And it's just like all these artists that have named songs that have poop in the title because it's like, Alexa, play poop or whatever.
Yeah.
She didn't hear me. The toilet bowl cleaners. Alexa, stop. But like, it's one of these things where like all these people have like SEO'd like toddler language so that they get like a partial. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, play poop.
No. See, it's a different person altogether. Alexa, stop. That's like rap. That's not.
Alexa, play Medium Pace by Adam Sandler.
Oh, you've done this to me before.
All right, whatever.
Alexa, stop. But it's one of those things where it's just like it's fun. Like the word is funny, but all these people are just like, oh, we could get money by toddlers yelling at it. So if Alias say buy poop, and they're like ordering Poop Storm by Fernando Sdrigotti, it's just like, all right.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a galaxy brain stuff that is making the world terrible.
Yeah, but it's funny.
I guess. Let's. Are we finished with the book?
I think so. I don't want to call him Matt because he's got to be doing family stuff. It's a Saturday morning on a holiday weekend. He's got a loving family. But we do have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. If you want to write in about this book or any other book, poop or not poop related, email in.
They're all poop related.
Meg's reaction to shitstorm. Our friend Egg wrote in once again. Maybe her shortest. Her email's so short she doesn't even have space to get to all in all.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about this book, but I liked it. It felt like it was a good snapshot of the news cycle. I also liked that it ended with an actual physical shitstorm.
All right. Well, that's kind of like the thing that we just said a second ago.
Yeah, thanks, Meg. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, real contribution there, Meg. She asked me a question to ask the author, which maybe we can.
Let's save it.
You want to save it?
Yeah, I only want to know.
All right.
I want to be surprised on that episode. Do you think, we haven't really done fantasy casting in a while, do you think, has there been a movie about the news cycle like this? Could you do a movie like this? Would anybody want to see a movie like this?
I think it would be half, document, or half, sort of mash-up collage documentary of the news cycle with, and then you could, insert... and just insert narrative. And
sure.
Then, it could be Tom Hanks or something.
As the dentist?
Sure.
Cool.
Or maybe Bradley Cooper, because he's more
I'll do anything.
And looks like, he would have the big, bright wattage smile and, and the good looks or whatever sort of plastic face.
And Lady Gaga as his dentist assistant, dental hygienist.
Okay.
Peroxide blonde. I just want A Star Is Born to come back. In full force.
You like that movie?
I like Shallow.
Yeah, you would.
I love Shallow.
Yeah, I could have predicted that.
We're on Twitter @LotteryPod, patreon.com/LotteryPod, lottery@cageclub.me. Keep reading.
Today, well, the book sort of is about a singular crime, right? Which is not quite poaching, but the illegal killing of an animal. So I guess, today's crime is poaching, which is pretty simple, right?
Sure.
As a pretty